I want to welcome everybody. We have a very special guest, a good friend of mine that I want to introduce to you. I'm just going to read out Doug's bio. This guy, Doug, he's an amazing guy. So Doug Dane is a survivor who has risen above past filled with physical, emotional, sexual abuse and violence to experience a life of freedom as an international keynote speaker and mentor for leaders. Now, in his new book, Mistaken Identity, he's turned his personal experience into a duplicable, did I say that right? Duplicable system to help people discover their true identity and let go of the past that's holding them back. Now, for 30 years, Doug has been coaching and mentoring thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners, and most recently, he spent 8 years under the wing of Bob Proctor, heading coaches division in the Proctor Gallagher Institute. Doug now is on a mission to show people how simple and fast they can get unstuck and live a better life. So I want to add to that. Now, Doug, when I first began working with Bob, I mean, Doug was a big figure there. I mean, I truly believe that you were probably the closest person working with Bob. You know, really like I refer you to as Bob Proctor's right-hand man. The amount of hours you spent with Bob in his private jet, in his home, you know, working with him, coaching with him, and you were like the star on the stage when in consultant trainings and all the big events. You were always on stage right there with Bob, and I know he loved you to bits, and he was so fond of you and so proud of you. So, Doug, here he is.
Hi, Minty. I was just thinking, just having a flashback of some memories of time with Bob. He was a regular guy, you know. We laugh our tails off just in conversation and stuff. Anyway, I just had a little memory there. It's good to be here.
So happy to have you, Doug. So you know, tell us a bit about your journey with Bob and how that began and what you were doing with him first of all.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I was doing an interview for the book yesterday, and the question kind of had me hop around chronologically. So I'll just try to keep it brief. But I spent, you know, with my bio, I had a real tough time. I really struggled as a young adult, trying to, you know, just do better in life. I think we all want to do that. And so I gotten into, my dad had passed and left some money for me, and I was working in a factory. I'd always worked in these, you know, factory jobs and things, and I wanted to be in business. I don't know why, but my family certainly didn't come from that place. And so I got this money. I quit the factory job, and I got into a couple of businesses. I had a perfume company and a tanning salon. And I got into business with a really bad guy. I didn't know at the time, but he turned out to be a real fraud. And anyway, I ended up, my first venture into business, both failed. Of course, I went bankrupt. I landed on my feet, and then I racked up another $40,000 in debt. And I got into a new industry they spent 25 years in. And a guy came into our office, and he said it was a seminar going on. It was called Born Rich, and it was with a guy named Bob Proctor. I'd never heard of it, but I liked the sound of the event. I borrowed the money for the ticket from a buddy of mine that got me into the business, and I went, and it was a weekend seminar in Toronto, and I figured out at that seminar why I went bankrupt and why I couldn't earn any money, because somebody had given me this book, and there's a secret in the book. If you've read it, I couldn't find the secret. You know, I was going to make $1 million by the time I was 25, and I was bankrupt. Anyway, I left that seminar, and I knew why I couldn't earn money, because I had a real lousy mindset and attitude towards money and people with it, because I grew up in a very poor, broken home. But I went to school with rich kids, because my school was in the border of the rich kids district. All my buddies went to the poor kids school, and I went to the rich kids school, and they teased me. But I wanted to be liked by them. And so I had this real conflict, you know. Anyway, I figured that out. I started making money and succeeding in business. And I was in the financial service industry, and I was like the top in my game in the country, in my company. I was known all over the country, traveling all over the place, working with people and coaching them and such. And anyway, I was doing well, and I just kind of, I fell into what Napoleon Hill calls a hypnotic rhythm. And I was doing well, and I was succeeding, but I didn't feel good on the inside. Everybody thought I had it all together. I had a good life on the outside, but on the inside, I was really struggling. And I just didn't like myself. And of course I was making mistakes because of that. And I really struggled in relationships specifically. And then I went public with my story in 2001. I blocked it all out till I was 40 years old. It came out when I was 40 through counseling after my marriage broke down. And then I went public. It was on the newspaper. I was on television. It was in books. People asked me to speak about it. I started speaking, and that was 2001. And it was like 12 years later, I'm still stuck, and what the hell's wrong with me? Why am I still stuck? And again, I was doing well in my business, but I had this story, and all these people were coming to me asking for help because they had stories like I had, but I couldn't help you. I mean, I can tell you what I did, but I couldn't tell you how to do what I did, So I was on this pursuit to figure that out. And then I was just, I was having coffee with a friend on a Friday morning, and she said, you should, I was just confiding in her, and she said, you should watch this. She gave me this DVD, and I took it home, and I don't even know what she gave me. I never watched it. I don't remember. I don't even know where the DVD went, but for some reason I put The Secret on. I turned on Netflix. I turned on The Secret. I don't know why. And then Bob Proctor, that guy in the tan suit with the white hair, starts barking at me at the screen. And then I remembered the seminar.
The same guy.
Yeah, same guy. Bob's there. And so I go on his website. I download his book, Born Rich. I get on an email list, and then I get an email for a coaching program with Bob Proctor. And so I signed up. I was scared, man, oh man. But I got into it, and I started studying, and then things just started changing so quick. And I was now understanding things I didn't understand, and some things I forgot from the seminar. Anyway, so I decided to become a consultant and teach his information like you do, Mindy. And that was May of 2014. And I was in his house in Toronto. And if we get a chance to talk about decision, we'll tell a story about decision. It's a funny story. But I made a decision that I would work with him. And he said something. He said, Doug, listen, I'm only an hour down the road. He said, I'll help you. You can phone me. I'm not hard to get to. You can come down and see me. You can ask for help, but you got to do exactly what I tell you to do. I said, yes, sir. I gave him my credit card, and I signed on the dotted line to become a consultant. And he said, now listen, I said, I want you to go find 10 people that you're going to help. And in a couple of weeks, we're running an event, and you're going to come speak at it. And I said, okay. And off I went. Anyway, I didn't go find 10 people. I found two, and two beautiful people I ended up working with for a long time. And I came back to the event, and I was supposed to speak, but I didn't speak because I didn't do what he told me to do. And he basically ignored me. And he said, where's Doug Dane? I'm at the back of the room. He said, get up here. So he dragged me up. He says, he picked somebody in the crowd. What's your name? Jennifer. Jennifer, come here. Sit down. So he puts the two of us, anybody that's in sales watching this, he puts the two of us knee to knee on a chair in front of a room full of people. And his assistant, Gina, goes, Gina, you got a camera? Get up here with your camera. Film them. And he goes, sell her. So I had to sell her on the spot. That was my first training. But at that training, I wrote on my goal card that I'm going to be the Roger Bannister of thinking of results. I'm going to be the top consultant in the world, and I'm going to be working side by side with Bob Proctor. And within 4 months, I got a phone call, and he asked me to be the international sales director. And I spent 8 years doing that. And just a funny, quick story to that. It was a year in, we were doing a live event in Toronto. And so often Bob would have me go up on stage and speak and, just tell my story. And so I go up, and I'm at the back of the room. And he's just kind of giving me some direction on what he wants me to talk about. And as he's walking to the stage, I had a flashback to 1989 at that seminar. I'd forgotten about it, but I had bought a bunch of kits. They were Born Rich kits. They were
the DVDs.
Though they were on VHS and cassette. And I bought a bunch of these kits. I don't know how many I bought, 20 of them or something. And I was going to get into business with Bob Proctor. I ran an event at my office. I rented a big screen TV. I invited all my friends, and we were going to play this a Saturday, Sunday. We're going to do a virtual event. And then I was going to sell them these kits. Well, nobody showed up except for my friend Terry. just the two of us. We watched it for the weekend, and that was the end of it. I don't know where those kits went, but I remembered, I was going to be in business with Bob Proctor in 1989.
And there you were.
And there I was, and so it's funny. It's funny how these things, come up, Anyway, that's the story.
So like, what's kind of unique is like you're in the financial services, right? And this kind of stuff, people they talk about money. They don't really talk about like the beliefs that go behind the money, the identity, because everybody has an identity. We talk about the self-image, which you're going to talk about, right? So,
yeah.
I always say to people, like, your bank card has a connection to your self-image. It's connected, right? So it's a printout of your self-image, your bank balance, everything in your external way you live. It's all to do with your identity, right? So how important do you think it is, Doug, right, for business owners to really understand the importance of that self-image?
Well, it's everything. I didn't know that. So prior to meeting Bob, so I was in the mortgage industry on that side of the financial services business. And so like practically and functionally and from a knowledge perspective, I was quite comfortable with money, of course, right? Because I was advising people. And I gave advice both on investing and on borrowing, but I was very comfortable with it. But I'd also early had figured out how to earn it and was quite comfortable earning it. Okay. But it's interesting, when I met Bob, he always asks you the question, and I always ask people, what's the most amount of money you ever made in a year? And he said, they always lie, they fudge it. And I lied and fudged it. I said about $250,000, which is 250, right? Well, I was always around the 210 to 220 range. And it hadn't changed in all those years. I peaked in my career and it was pretty much the same. Now that was back then, that was good. I had a nice life. My wife, she was making good money. We enjoyed a comfortable life, but it's everything. I did not know when I first started studying with Bob, there's a couple things I didn't know. Number one is I did not know that my mind is a machine. I'm not a machine, but I have this machine and I'm the operator of the machine, and the machine operates a certain way. And like all machines, it's probably a good idea to understand how to operate it properly. Well, I didn't know that my mind was a machine, or that it directed my brain and my nervous system. Well, I wasn't thinking real well and I didn't feel real well. So I got excited about that. I can control and direct my mind. Yeah. And the other thing I did not know was that what runs that machine, and primarily from an unconscious perspective. So we've got our conscious and our unconscious mind. We operate primarily unconsciously. And what is deep in the unconscious or subconscious is a mental program. Bob called it a paradigm. And part of that is your self-image, how you see yourself, your opinion of yourself. And that's what regulates the machine, like a thermostat. The thermostat is a machine. It's a device. But inside that device is a program that we set. We set the temperature of our home, and our self-image sets the temperature of our life, of our results, our attitude towards money, how much we can earn, how much we can keep, how much we feel we are worth or what we deserve. So a lot of you're not charging what you should be charging. You're selling yourself short. Or some people, when they're trying to expand their businesses, their self-image limits their own expansion of their product or their service. A little example, my hair, I'm going to get a haircut. My hairstylist, every time I see her, I can't help but coach people, right? Every time I see her, I say, you got to raise your prices. She's, oh, I can't do that. And finally I got her to raise her prices, but it's hard for people to make those adjustments because they have these beliefs locked in along with their self-image that limits them from charging what they're worth, and earning what they're worth.
That's great, because I remember my first ever training I went to in Toronto. You were there. It was a smaller training back then. There was about 60 odd people. Remember Alberto Real?
Pardon me?
Alberto. Do you remember Alberto?
Yeah, Alberto Real. Yeah.
Me and him are very good friends now. And I remember he was on stage. He's in the inner circle then. And being in the inner circle was like a dream. It still is a dream for a lot of people. And I remember Alberto was on stage and he was saying that he made like 75 grand in a month. And I just couldn't register that. I'm like, did he say 7,500? I felt dizzy. I was in
Yeah.
that room. I can take in the fact that you can actually earn 75,000 in a month. And I was blown away. And I was like, that's I had breakfast with him the next morning. And we talk about it. I was with him in Mexico earlier last year. And I said I always remember when you said that you're on 75,000 and I was earning around about 2,000. I just couldn't apprehend, I couldn't accept the fact that it's possible. And it's kind of funny because I went up to that 100K month, or did like 500,000 a month, and now we laugh about it because people look at other people's income, say, well, they can do it, but I can't.
Right.
We see that, right? So
Yeah.
how does our self-image like shift our income so much? We have like quantum leaps in income. How can someone go from like earning 10,000, 20,000 a year or 100,000 a year to earning 100,000 a month? How does that actually happen?
Well, like Bobby used to always say, he'd say, you don't earn $10,000 a month because you want to earn $10,000 a month. You earn $10,000 a month because you're not aware of how to earn $100,000 a month. And so I think there's two parts to it. I think too many people get fooled into the idea that they can 10x their income just simply by knowing more or harder work. You'll never really, when I say awareness, you have to be able to clear out the mental junk in your mind so you can see that $100,000 is not a big deal. Like hanging around with Bob, $100,000 is nothing. I remember first time on the private jet coming back from Los Angeles, he opened up his briefcase and he had a stack of bills, right? And he hands me a bill. It was $1 million bill. He just had them made up, right? But it looked real. I thought, it's just $1 million. And I still have that $1 million bill, but he wanted, because he had a goal of 100 million. So he had a stack of $100 million bills, right? And he just kept making it look small. So our limiting beliefs, our mistaken identity, I call our self-image, it's like you've got blinders on. You have to expand and look beyond to be able to see that, number one. And you won't even acquire the skill set. Like Alberto's on stage saying 75,000 a month. You can't even fathom it. Until you can fathom it, you'll never really develop the skill sets to get it. You got to fathom it first, and then everything else lines up for you. Now that's backwards or contrary to what we've been taught in business. And everybody's got it. I had it wrong for 25 years. I thought strategy and planning and execution, all that stuff, right? But the most important factor, you must change it, is this self-image. And now people don't really understand self-image. I thought I did. I didn't. Very few people actually do. It's not real complicated, but nobody really talks about it or teach it. Like Mindy, you understand it. You're one of the few that understand it and can explain it and teach it effectively. And we just, it's just your self-image is really this mistaken identity, I call it, is that you're just mistaken about who you are and what you're capable of. And you also have all these values and beliefs and biases and prejudices that were drilled into you when you were little. In my case, 60% of people were really poorly treated. So not only do I have a bunch of biases and distorted rules and values and beliefs that I got locked into, plus I was treated really lousy, so I felt lousy about myself. Terrible combination, right? I got an email, to give you an example. I got an email yesterday. I was working with somebody, and they're Indian, and they're writing email all their problems, and you could see how strong the cultural paradigms and family paradigms and beliefs, how they were holding them back. They didn't agree with the cultural and family paradigms, but they were really had a strong hold over them. And so whether it's money, whether it's,
superstition as well, that's a big one, right?
Superstition, how you're supposed to be as a man or a father or a mom or as a wife or whatever. There's all these beliefs, and all you got to do is you just got to get honest with yourself. You just got to say, what do I want? What do I want my life to be like? Not so I look really cool on social media, not so all my friends say, oh, I want to drive that car. What do you want? And if you're really honest with yourself from a heartfelt perspective, the good news is what's really cool is if you want that, you already are that person. Now, just because you don't have it doesn't mean you can't get it. You just don't know how to get it. But what you got to do is you got to accept the idea that if I want it, if I want to do this or be that or change the world this way, if I want it, I must already be that person. And the other good news is that if you want to be that person, you've already been gifted the talent and ability to carry it out. And so we have to accept those two ideas first. Like the best book on self-image, and Bob talked about it a lot. He studied it for years. It's Inside the Thinking to Results program that you guide people through on lesson 6. Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics, best book to explain how the machine works and how self-image runs it. And he said that you can't just arbitrarily make up a new self-image. So in the self-help world and books, people just say, act like the person you want to become.
So much noise, isn't there? So much noise.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it. Well, it doesn't work that way. You do have to act like the person you want to become.
Well, there's more to it, right? There's more to it, right?
Yeah, there's 2 conditions. Okay. Number 1, you have to realize that the image you hold of yourself is a mistake. Secondly,
in the subconscious, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And all you look at is you just go, am I living my life the way I want to? Am I happy? Am I relatively calm and relaxed most of the time? Am I operating from a place of ease and abundance? If you're not, then you know that something is off track inside. And that's why outside is off track. And the second side of it is the image you're going to create has to be based on some level of truth. So the truth is you can't be anybody that you want. You can't. The key is to be yourself and succeed at that. So when I was little, quick story, when I was little, so I always knew I was adopted. I was dropped into this violent alcoholic home as a baby, but I always knew I was adopted. And I loved playing basketball. Grade 5, grade 6, Westmount Public School. Every day we were out on the tarmac playing basketball. Well, I had convinced myself and told my friends that the reason I was such a good basketball player, because my real dad, my birth father, was a black NBA basketball player. That's what I told people, and I'll never become an NBA basketball player. You can't be whoever you want to be, but you can be who you want to be based on some level of truth. That's why you go inside and go, what do I want? Who am I? So just a few questions we got to ask ourselves.
I think too many people, Doug, well, not too many people, probably 98% of the population are trying to change something on the outside.
Yes.
It's like we hear the words that success is an inside job, but not many people actually understand that. Right? They go on about the law of attraction and stuff, and they watch the movie The Secret, read a few books, go on YouTube, watch a few videos, and their belief is that they'll just say a bunch of affirmations, they'll create a vision board, do some visualization, have a morning routine, a gratitude list, and everything's going to change. And it doesn't. And that's what causes frustration, right? Because most people don't know how to actually change. They don't know how to take themselves from earning maybe 5, 10, 20,000 a month to doing $1 million a month. It's so possible for everybody, isn't it?
It is. And listen, I was very frustrated too, as you were. I was working on the outside primarily. And the other problem is, from where I came from, I didn't trust a lot of people. I mean, I had real problems with trust, but I was skeptical too, and then I tried different things with different people, and I kind of got burned and, spent some money. And now the problem these days, it's hard to find a guy like you, Mindy, because on these things, this seems to be the seminar classroom. We're on these things, and it's noisy, as you said, and there's so many people on here talking about things. I don't go on social very much, but if I'm on there, I see something, I just look at the books, I go, this person doesn't know what the heck they're talking about.
Load of nonsense.
And no, granted though, there's good people out there trying to do good work and help people. But what you got to do, like I have a rule with my clients and people I work with, and I say there's only 3 people you should be talking to. 3 people, and that's it. Number one, find somebody that you want to emulate, somebody that is getting results you want, acting the way you want, the sort of person you want to become. So Bob, what that was, when I met him, I'm going to emulate this guy. And that was advice he gave me. And he said, borrow from me, Doug, whatever characteristics and qualities. And so I've done that. I don't talk like Bob. I don't teach like Bob, but there's a lot of characteristics that I borrow. This guy here is a big mentor, Gandhi. I'm emulating characteristics of him to get to my next level in my life. So pick somebody to emulate and to follow. They're not on social media. Okay. Don't follow them on Facebook or YouTube. That's not where they are. Okay. Secondly, you need a mentor. You need somebody to guide you. Like if you were going to climb Mount Everest, you wouldn't do it alone. Okay. You could try. You probably wouldn't even get to the mountain because no expedition would actually even take you on. Right. You don't just get to go there because you want to. Right. And so you need a mentor. Like you're a great mentor. I'm a great mentor. And so somebody to guide you that's already has gone down the road you want to go down. Right. Everybody's hopping all over the place, books and videos, all this stuff. You're trying to find the answer. That's why you're lost, because you're looking all over the place. And the third person to talk to, and the most important person to speak to, is you speak to God, to spirit, to infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, through you. You got to get really good at trusting yourself. And so you have to understand how your mind does that, how your mind actually works, to enable you to do that. We're asking way too many people for their advice and their opinion. And I think those are the only 3 people that you should talk to.
So that mistaken identity, like your book we're going to talk about. So that mistaken identity is your own self-image that's causing your unwanted results. And you don't understand like why you're not getting the results that you want. Why do we keep on doing the things that we've been told? We've got to work long, we've got to work hard, we've got to work longer hours, we've got to be honest if you're going to be successful. But, there's a mistaken identity, like you said, and we've got to correct. Until we correct that identity, nothing on the outside changes. The bank balance doesn't change. The business doesn't change. You don't get new clients at the rates that you want. You don't charge the prices that you want. That's correct, right?
That's absolutely correct. And what's happened, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is it's a real bugger being human, okay? Because it's in our nature. It's just natural. We want to grow, we want to do better. And we know we can be doing better. We know we could be doing better. And we know we're doing things that are undermining ourselves. We're aware of that, and it's frustrating because that you could be getting ahead. But the problem is it's so confusing out there, and we're searching all over the place for the answers, and you get stuck, you can't get unstuck, and you get frustrated, you worry about your future, you're anxious, you're looking backwards on the past with guilt or resentment, whatever it is, and you just keep fostering this, and you're asking yourself the wrong question. You end up asking yourself, what the heck's wrong with me? What's wrong with what I'm doing? You're asking the wrong question. You should be asking, what is wrong with what I believe? What is wrong with what I was taught? What is wrong with who I'm following? I was talking to an entrepreneur, this is I guess probably a month or so back, and his business just got stuck, and he'd been stuck for weeks. I said, well, tell me what's going on. And so I just did a little quick, I was in my car at Starbucks, asked a bunch of questions, a little assessment on his business. And all he was doing, Mindy, was he kept saying, there must be something wrong with me. And I always hear this, oh, I must have attracted that or something.
Oh, yeah.
I go, don't say that. And after 20 minutes, I go, dude, can I be straight with you? He goes, sure. I said, there's nothing wrong with you. You want to know what's wrong with your business? He goes, yeah. I said, the company that you hired, that's what's wrong with your business. And I told him why this company was doing it all wrong. He never thought of that. He fired them, right away, and his business took off like a rocket.
Yeah.
He was asking the wrong question.
I love that. I love that. That's the thing, right? Most people, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Going that touching on that point where you said I attracted this. He said I attracted this.
Yeah.
Like, the self-image, I talk about the self-image, Doug, like that's how you attract, right? That's how the law of attraction responds to your self-image, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
And what would you say to somebody about when they're trying to follow the law of attraction and without changing the subconscious, without changing the self-image, can they expect any change without changing the self-image?
No, I remember Bob, he had a little video that he made up. He was on a flip chart. He drew the stick person, if you've ever seen him draw the stick person. And he said the law, he would kind of laugh, and we would talk about it a lot. He said, people don't understand the law of attraction. He said, very few people understand it. Very few people teach it properly. And he said, the law of attraction is based on the law of vibration. So we're a magnet and we attract things to us. He said, the law of attraction does not respond to your goal. The law of attraction responds to your paradigm.
Oh, so basically what he's saying is you can have a goal of 20,000, 100,000. You can rewrite it all the time. Now, the law of attraction is not going to respond to that goal, is it?
That's correct. Yeah. Now, why did Alberto, your friend, how did he go to 75,000 in a month? Because he didn't have anything in his subconscious that was blocking him from what he wanted. And he just got it like that. That's why it's so easy for some, because they set a goal. And usually when they set a goal, they don't have a paradigm. They believe they can do it. It's like Alberto I know Alberto. I'm going to make this business look so easy compared to what I came from. And he had no paradigms. He had no limits. This is going to be a no-brainer. And it was a no-brainer.
For him, yeah. For him.
For him.
Yeah.
Only because he believed it. He didn't have anything contradictory at the subconscious level. I'm 23 and I'm reading this book. I thought I could find the secret and become a millionaire, but I didn't really believe it. And the reason, even if I did really believe it, I would have never truly believed it, because in my subconscious, I had real contradictory beliefs against the very thing that I wanted.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing, touching like what you just said about Bob Proctor, said most people don't really understand the law of attraction, how to teach it. I mean, what we teach, we've been through the same material. So what we teach about the law of attraction is totally different to what anybody else out there is speaking about, right? You go to any YouTube videos and stuff, it's totally, it's got nothing to do with what we teach. And the reason why we're so effective at what we do is because we actually understand it at the really deep foundational levels, right? And
that's right. Yeah.
It's totally different, totally different.
I can't stand, and forgive me if I bother anybody when I say this, but I can't stand people using I manifested. Because most people are saying that don't really understand manifestation. Now they'll argue, go, yes, I do. And there's a big difference between, there's a lot of stuff out there that can get you really fired up, and really motivated. And you can go on YouTube and you can, get your hit. You're fired up for the day. It doesn't solve your problems, but you feel good enough to deal with your problems. You got to get to the root level. Like in the case of the book and Mistaken Identity and this whole self-image, for me, 60% of adults have suffered what I suffered, which is called adverse childhood experiences: emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, witnessing violence, neglect, mistreatment. I went through all of that. And then the other 40% of the population have just been brought up, in nice families or average families, whatever, but just a bunch of stuff, beliefs drilled into them through repetition in their upbringing that are contradictory to who they are and what they want. And so I wanted to write the book because I just wanted people to understand what's actually holding them back. And it is at the subconscious level. And if you don't change it, you've met a lot of people, many too. A lot of people, they get results, but it's temporary. They always, it's like the thermostat. Like I said, if your thermostat's set at 72, you might crank up the heat, you might turn up to 80 for a week or a month or even a year, but you always come back down to 72. The self-image is the regulator of your environment of your life. And the only way to permanently change the temperature in my home right now, it's set at 72, is I'd have to go over there and I'd have to make a permanent program change to that device to make it at, say, 80 degrees, and then it'll stay at 80. But you've got to change that. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I always say to people that if you go back and look at your bank balance on your wrap, but the past 5 years, you'll see a pattern. There's a correlation, isn't there? Like your bank balance never goes below a certain point and it never goes above. And if it does, like you just said, it will come straight back down. And, you know, people think, oh, your manifestation's working for me. It's working. Yes. Then it's consistent, right? It's
I remember when I first started working with Bob, he said, Doug, he said, you should have, you know, a certain amount in your bank account all the time. And so I think the first number for me was I was always going to have 20 in my account, no matter what, 20 grand, right? And you're right. We all have this, you know, this sort of thermostat. We'll never let it go below 1,000 or something, right? You know, we want to buy something, or we know we want to fix something at our house, but we can't go below 1,000, right? So we won't. So for me, it was 20. And then he just kept upping it. He said, why don't you make it 50? So I made it. So I kept upping the number. And then guess what? I always had the higher number. And it didn't take very long to get there. Sometimes it would come down to, you know, then it was 100 grand cash, right? 100 grand cash. And we get close to the 100, and then it would go back up again, you know? And so you just got to just set a new standard. But you got to remember the standard you've been operating with you've been operating that way for a long time. And so you got to do it's not a lot of work, but you got to do a bit of work, the right work, a certain way. That's what you're trying to help people with, is you make these changes and then they become permanent. And I mean, somebody might work with you and they may be making, I don't know, 20 grand a month in their business. Hell, I say, if Mindy can get you to 40 grand a month in your business, okay, consistently, well, that is your new level. And it's either going to stay there or it's going to get higher. That's a hell of a great return on your investment, you know. But once you understand how to get from here to here, like when you finally figure out how Alberto did it, then you're able to do it, you know. And you talked to him, had breakfast or lunch, whatever you said, and then
and then it's no big deal, is it? Once you get there, you think, you know.
No big deal.
Biggest month I had was like a 500K month.
Yeah.
And actually working less, it was illogical and it was effortless. And people look at me, they might say, well, that's you can do it. But I remember when I was earning 2,000 a month and I just wanted to get 5. I remember saying to Bob that I want to earn 10,000. I was in his office at his house and I said, Bob, I just want to earn 10,000. I said, it scares the shit out of me. He goes, why does it scare the shit? He goes, not big or small. And he explained and I thought to myself, well, okay, I will believe you, but I still don't believe you, but I believe you, kind of thing. You're right. And he could read through you, couldn't he? And like Bob used to say, you know, do exactly as I say, you know. And the problem is that we've got to follow a system, right? We've got to follow a blueprint. I always call the system that we teach a blueprint, because it is a blueprint to upping your game. Okay. Now, if you don't follow that, nothing really changes, right? Nothing changes. And people like hope and wishful thinking, hoping that we used to say it perfectly, didn't he? Most people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to death, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Without taking a so-called risk. So, Doug, tell us about your book. Who is it really for? I mean, what's your vision with that?
Well, it's honestly, you know, I feel funny saying it, but I think it's for everybody. I think everybody suffers from mistaken identity for one reason or another. I was struggling with my own self-image, you know, trying to do better in life, and, you know, working closely with Bob, you know, sort of experience things I never experienced before, seeing things the way I never saw them before. But I talked to my own journey, and then talking to thousands of people, when I got a chance to really get you to tell me the truth of what was really going on in your mind that was holding you back, pretty much 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, it was people just had a poor opinion of themselves. And so mistaken identity is basically you have you're mistaken about how you see yourself. In 60% of the case, it's people like me that went through what I went through. And then the other 40% is people that just had these rules and values and beliefs and bias and prejudice drilled into you when you were little. And when you were young, your parents started setting up these rules and values you were supposed to follow and expected to follow. And there was two things going on. There was huge pressure or compulsion to conformity. You were expected to conform. And that also created a real fear of criticism or worrying what people would think of you if you didn't conform, and you were just expected and wanted to fit in and be liked. Okay. Simultaneously, when you were expected to, meet this standard or bar that the parents laid down for you, well, often you didn't. And what they did is they punished you, or they criticized you, or they teased you. They didn't really praise you a whole lot. And they judged you against the bar. Mindy, you're such a bad kid. Or like I was, Doug Dane, you're such a little devil. I could never reach the bar. So then you start judging yourself and you never really feel good enough. And so most of us have grown up with this lingering feeling like, what's wrong with me? Or I'm off track, or you've grown up with second guessing or doubting yourself. Or like Bob said, you either grow up confident or you don't. It's one or the other.
No in between.
There's no in between. And if you're not confident, it's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is what you believe or how you were treated. And so I had all these people coming to me trying to ask me for help. Doug, how did you go from this violent, childhood to succeeding and not having any negative feelings towards a story? Like I look at the story as a gift, actually, And they said, how did you do it? And so I wanted to lay down how I did it. But I could have written a book, Mindy. I could have coached people and charged them money for it. But I didn't feel right about that until I had done it myself. I was always a walk the talk kind of guy. So I never intended to write a book, but I did have a strong intention and pursuit to be able to hand to you in some fashion, some roadmap, some direction. Okay, Mindy, here's why you have this mistake, and here's what it is. Here's why you have it, and here's how you change it so you can get unstuck and you can free yourself and you can live your life the way you want to live it, without boundaries, without limits, and without worrying about what other people think or conforming to people that you don't want to conform to. And so that was the base of the book. It's not a book that you read. I wrote it actually as a handbook. There's 30 chapters. Each chapter is only 5 minutes long. And in the chapter is part of my story, just to get your attention, hook your attention, because I introduce you to a key principle, a rule about how this all works, how your mind works, how success works, how the laws of nature work. And I'm very direct. I go, this is the deal. This is how it works. And then I get you to take an action step. There's an exercise at the back of each chapter. And so somebody said the other week, they go, Doug, this is literally a personal development program on changing your poor self-image over 30 days. That's the way I wanted it to work. I didn't want to just write a book that you read and put it up on the shelf. I wanted it to actually work. And that's what it's about. And it does work. And I've ran observational trials with groups of people that have read the book over 30 days, reported their results. And it's just so gratifying, humbling that I was able to put together a system that I could give you, because I can't reach as many people as I want. I mean, I don't know if people are watching here, but it's not enough. There's too many people out there that are struggling. And so a book was one of the best ways to get the word out fast,
Yeah. So this would be a great book for youngsters as well as the older.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got a number of people that bought the book. And their kids are reading it, or they're going through it with their parents, and they're doing the exercises together. I get these pictures. There was one picture with two young boys and their mom. They had a flip chart, and they were doing the exercises. And I've had a number of young people in the observational trial group, and it applies to everybody, young people especially, because the good news for young people is, the bad news is they're on the wrong track and they're easily getting lost because of this phone. But they don't have as deep-seated paradigms and programming because they're young enough to change.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that. I was talking about that in our masterclass, like how the condition just builds up, and then we've
Yes.
got to break it all down. So what we're going to do, Doug, we'll put a link into where they can get it. We'll send everybody out an email. It'd be great if you get this
Thank
week,
you.
guys and girls, if you're watching here, make sure you get a copy for any youngsters in your family. It's something great. It's not just something they're going to use, but they're going to benefit from years to come. Wish we had, like the material that we have access to. Wish I had that at a younger age. I wouldn't have to do as much work as I had to get to where we are, Doug, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, for what it's worth, I do want to talk about you because I remember when I met you and, Bob and I often talked about people. When I first met you, I go, yeah, I don't know, this guy's going to figure it out. Because it was almost like, and I was wrong about you, but I was almost thinking, this guy's not really going to listen. I didn't see you as a good listener. It's funny.
Did you have a chat with Bob? Did you about me?
What's that? Yeah,
Bob.
Yeah, we talked about people all the time. Just because we were, and then you figured it out, and then you started really taking off and really helping people a lot. And I remember just when you were talking earlier, I wanted to say it is when I met Bob, he had, of course, he'd followed this book, Think and Grow Rich. And in the very first lesson of Think and Results, I remember when I first started it, he's in the book, he's in the lesson, he's going, I've been reading this book for a long time, 50 years at the time or whatever. He goes, I have friends all over the world. I'm happy, healthy, and wealthy. He goes, I think I'll keep reading it. And he starts laughing because, this guy laid everything out. He goes, I figure this guy spent his whole life writing this book. I'm going to spend my whole life following this book. And he says, it's earned me millions of dollars. And he laughs. And I figure, all right, well, if he's spent his whole life studying this book and reading it and teaching it, and I saw the results he was getting, I figured it'd be a good idea if I followed Bob Proctor. And I did. And that's what you're doing. And so I would say to anybody watching, you'd probably be, one day you're going to see Mindy Paul in a video and he's going to say something like Bob said. And I said, I decided to follow Bob and do what he told me to do. And I have a beautiful life and I'm earning millions of dollars. I have friends all over the world. I think I'll keep teaching it. Well, you should follow Mindy Paul because you're really good. That's why you're still here. There's a lot of people that aren't still here. You're still here and you're helping more and more people. And because you're following, it's a system. Bob just laid down a very simple system. It's not complicated. It happens. It's a process. It's a roadmap. And that's how I learned to write the book. I mean, I wrote the book much the same way as I learned from Bob. I just laid down a path and you got a roadmap in your hands and Mindy can put it in your hands. And I think it'd be a good idea for people to follow you. If you're listening and this is resonating with you, don't doubt yourself and definitely don't doubt Mindy because he's a good guy. And give yourself a shot. I think you'd be really, really pleased. So anyway, I'm so happy that you're doing so well. And I remember that first event. I remember Alberto, and I'm glad that you're helping people now the way you let yourself take help.
Yeah, listen, I always looked up to you, Doug. You always there with Bob and thought the world of you. And you help so many people yourself, me included, everybody. You help so many different people and you held the division together, right? So the great thing is that we've learned from the source, right? Like Bob Proctor, there's not going to be another one like him. He was just someone so special, someone so unique. He was such a humble guy, right, Doug? He was just such a giving person. And I see a lot of those qualities in yourself as well, which is, I'm so grateful that we're in his era, that we got to spend time with him. It's like, he was mentored by Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale was mentored by Napoleon Hill. You were mentored by Bob. I was mentored by Bob. And it's just like, that's never going to happen to anybody again.
Yeah. Somebody has said that to me before, and it's Bob kept saying he kept quoting Howard Donnell. He said, "Doug, don't drink your own bathwater," meaning don't let your ego hijack you in this business or any other business. And Bob was zero ego. He's just a humble guy. People always go they always talk about how amazing it must be to hang around with Bob Proctor and be friends. And it was amazing, but I never really thought about it that way. He was just a regular guy, but he was exceptional in teaching people how to live a better life. And you're right. There's nobody like him. I've not seen anybody like him since. I've been around personal development a long time. A lot of rah. There's a lot of motivation, a lot of, people trying to do good work, but I've never met anybody that laid this down so simply that it's easy to follow. And Bob, it wasn't about the money for him. He earned a lot of money, but it wasn't about the money. He was like, I was down in, real quick, I was down in Omaha to Berkshire Hathaway's annual general meeting, shareholders meeting with Warren Buffett. And here's a guy, he sat on stage for 8 hours doing Q&A to shareholders. This guy is a very humble, average guy that just figured out how to earn money, and he loves the game, and that's, stay humble, don't drink your own bathwater. Because like in Buffett's words, he said, if your ego gets in the way, you start to make some dumb mistakes. He goes, I'm just a regular guy that just made less dumb mistakes than the average person.
Yeah,
so stay humble.
That. I love what you said before we wrap up. You said about earning money is a game. It really is a game. We know the rules, right? And we've got our masterclass, Doug. We're gonna close the gate on Tuesday midnight. So what would you say to someone who's been around, seen other people's results that have helped? They want to grow their business, but they haven't made a decision. They haven't filled out the application to apply to work with us. What would you say to that person?
Well, I think what you got to do, I have to say to people, I was in a meeting with a team of entrepreneurs this week, and at the end of it, because there was people in the room that had never met me, had never really heard this information. At first, they were kind of joking, this kind of sounds like a cult or something, because my client that had invited me there, that's what she thought. She brought up. I thought this is anyway. I said to them at the end, I said, listen. What do you think of what I've, be honest, what do you think of what I've said so far in this past hour? And they said, well, it makes a lot of sense. I go, yeah, all right. And I said, does it resonate with you? They go, yeah. I said, all right, so if it makes sense and it resonates with you, it must be what? And one of the girls filled the blanks, said, it must be true. I said, well, if that's true, then why don't you just do exactly what I tell you to do? And so I think that's the measuring stick. Does this make sense to you? Does it resonate with you? Does Mendy and the way his style, his personality, does it resonate with you? And if it does, you got to make a decision. But we're too used to, overthinking and evaluating and asking too many people for their opinion of whether this is true and whether it resonates. And that's not the way to go. You got to start becoming a decision maker on your own. And you got to start making decisions quickly with the information you have. Because if you go away and think about it, that's procrastination. That's a habit. It probably shows up in other areas of your life. And one thing, if you want to succeed and you want to multiply your income or expand your business, you got to become a really good decision maker, and decision makers make decisions quick. And so I would what have you got to lose? But what do you have to gain? And I think it's all a decision. You just make as Bob told me, Doug, just make a friggin' decision.
That's what it comes down to, Doug. Doug, it's been, I've been looking forward to having you on. Just a great guy. And I'll always, always do whatever I can for you, because you've helped me so much and you've helped so many people. Just like an expression of Bob, you're just like Bob, right? Just exactly what he was like. Just such a giving person, wants to see everybody succeed. And hopefully I'm doing that too. I want to do that to as many people. I generally want to see people win in life. I hate seeing people struggle, suffer, not living to their full potential. I've been there. I know what it feels like, right? And I always say it's like you're in a hole, right? You're buying a ladder to get out that hole. Unless you buy that ladder, you're not going to get out that hole. So I say we're not selling coaching. We're selling you a ladder to get out from the hole that you're in now into freedom. So yeah, Doug, listen, I want to thank you.
You got the ladder. You're holding here. Just grab Mindy's ladder. He just wants to help you out. So
yeah, amazing. Listen, Doug. So yeah, listen, really thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Spending time on a Saturday afternoon. I know you're going to get your hair cut now, so you're looking
and a shave.
And a shave. Listen, so much respect to you, so much love to you, so much gratitude, Doug, for everything that you've done for everybody. Okay, so we'll catch up soon, and we'll we'll mail out a link to your book. So if you can send a link to your book, and we'll we'll get it to people. So listen, guys and girls, if you're right here, right now, get the book. You know, it's going to be a game changer, especially for your kids. Give it to your kids. Mistaken identity. We've got an identity. We're constantly working on our identity. I'm working on mine now. My identity has got me to so far to that 500,000. Now I've got to redevelop that identity, right? Work on a new identity, and it never finishes. It's progress. It never finishes. You'll never have that perfect identity. So Doug, have a good day, buddy.
Thanks, Mindy. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.